On FM 104.7 and 107.6. Through your smart speaker. Play Castledown FM. And online via the World Wide Web. We are Castledown FM.
Thank you so much for joining me here in Castledown FM to talk about this really important subject of sickle cell disease. Now, for those who aren't aware, what is sickle cell disease?
Hello, Barry, again. My name is Marie Claire, and I am a sickle cell sufferer, and I also run a charity in Walsall, the West Midlands, called Plasma of Hope. So for those who don't know, in the layman's term, sickle cell is a genetic blood disorder, and what we mean by genetic is that you were born with it. So you get it from both parents. You can't catch it from people. So you're born with it. And the reason we call it sickle cell is because of the shape of the red blood cell. So people without sickle cell will have a normal round red blood cell shape, but those with sickle cell disease do have like a half moon red blood cell shape, and as a result of the shape of the red blood cell for people with sickle cell, it makes it very difficult for these red blood cells to go through their blood vessels, the very tiny ones especially, and that causes a lack of oxygen to go through the body, because red blood cells do carry oxygen. So because of this, you tend to find that people with sickle cell disease do have something called a crisis, and this is usually very excruciatingly painful, and that affects every single part of their life, and it affects their organs and the whole being, physical and mentally. So yeah, that is what sickle cell is.
And Marie Claire, thank you so much for explaining that to us, because some of us might hear that name, sickle cell, but we don't know what it means. Now, we now understand from what you said of what it actually means, but for you yourself who live with this condition, what is it like for you personally?
Well, personally, it's a condition that I have to live with every single day, and it affects every aspect of my life, because I am in constant pain, even though I might not say it. I'm always tired. You find that people with sickle cell do suffer from fatigue quite a lot. And most of the time, this is being misunderstood as being lazy. And also because of the shape of the red blood cells, we don't get enough oxygen going through our body, and the tendency of you getting tired is very high. And because of the constant pain as well, you get to miss a lot of your life activities. We have kids missing school due to being ill with sickle cell crisis. You have people not being able to work full-time or constantly. I mean, I have been affected in every aspect that I can think of with sickle cell, especially recently. I am a radiographer by profession, but I had to bring that to an end because of some of the challenges I was facing as an employee and someone working, in healthcare. I was always tired. I was always sick, and this was causing a lot of problems for my employers. And it didn't go down really well. And I had to make a very personal choice to decide if I wanted to have a better well-being or, worry about work all the time. Because one of the causes for sickle cell crisis is stress. And I was under tremendous stress due to me being so absent from work. And as a result of that, I was not having enough money because I was not in work most of the time. So I had to leave my job. And this is something that you hear a lot of patients that suffer with sickle cell complain about. They go through lots of financial difficulties because of this problem. So it's very important that we are having these conversations. And like everyone has said today, it's not just about raising awareness on World Sickle Cell Day. Sickle cell disease affects us 365 days a year, and it affects every aspect of our lives. So it's important that every person that we come across hopefully understand what we go through, because it is life-changing for most of us, and we are doing our best to make the most of it regardless.
Yeah, Marie-Claire, thank you so much for explaining how it affects you, because it's important that we can understand what we're actually talking about today. And Owen, you're from Pfizer, you're the head of rare diseases, and there's some research out about sickle cell disease. And what's the research findings for us?
Thank you, and hello. The SHAPE survey that was published in December highlighted some really important findings. So patients, their carers and healthcare professionals were surveyed. And what they found through the course of the survey was that 3 months on average of work or school for patients is missed. So a quarter of someone's year. And Marie-Claire's just really highlighted that, how challenging that is to manage. It's not just difficult for the patients themselves, it's clearly really challenging for families. And what we're trying to raise awareness of in World Sickle Cell Day is that's a concern for society as a whole. So in raising awareness, what we're really trying to do is shine a spotlight onto this condition, the impact it has on people. And if we can make sure that a condition that affects 15,000 people across the UK, so there are lots of people are affected, but it's largely unknown. And if we can address that, we have more awareness, then that's where we can see the improvements in care that patients so desperately need.
And you're right in what you say, Owen. It is something that people don't know about, and it's not spoken about enough. And that's the problem with rare diseases. But this isn't so rare. And that's what annoys me. It's not a rare disease because you've just said how many people suffer from it. We should be more aware of it. So how does a lack of public awareness exacerbate the challenges faced by patients and those who they love?
Well, I think it's, firstly, you have to appreciate that sickle cell is not a condition that you would be able to tell someone has just by looking at them. It's often called the invisible condition in that respect. So one of the first things we'd like to do is raise awareness so that people have an understanding that sickle cell is a condition, that it is common, and that an improvement in care is absolutely critical. And with that awareness, that can be the first step towards real change. As Marie-Claire says, it's not just about Sickle Cell Day. It's about 365 days a year. But if we could really accelerate awareness on the 19th of June, then that would be great to get things moving and see the kind of changes that we want to see. Yeah,
and, do you know, Owen, Marie-Claire, the thing is, we have awareness days for everything. And, you know, every other day is an awareness day for something.
That's true.
But something as important as this, it shouldn't just be one day that we're talking about it. We should be talking about it every day until there is more support out there. And Marie-Claire, I mean, what support are you able to get for your condition? I mean, is there much out there to support you?
Well, it's very difficult to say because I am a very stubborn person, and you know, I used to be based in London where support was really good compared to other parts of the country, and that's what we are advocating for. Some of us believe that support is very central to London, and it's very crucial that people that live outside of London understand and know that there is support available. I live in the Midlands. There is some form of support, and the local centres, the specialist centres, are doing fantastic work in looking after, you know, people with sickle cell disease. And we have also community groups that are doing the very best to support people with sickle cell. I live in a little town called Warsaw, where there has never been a sickle cell support group. So due to some of the challenges I face, and this is what I keep saying to every sickle cell patient, every sickle cell sufferer, that speak up about some of the challenges you are facing. You might just have someone who understands and might want to help. Due to some of the challenges I faced, I decided to come up and set up a charity called Plasma of Hope that listens and identifies and caters for some of the needs of people that live with sickle cell. So there is support out there. Nationally, there is the Sickle Cell Society that provides incredible information and support to those living with sickle cell. But like I said before, it's very central. It's important that this is national, because every part of the country has someone living with sickle cell. And as much as we are advocating for, health inequality to be diminished, it's important to note that other parts of care in terms of social benefits needs to be raised. I have had people come to me and raise concerns about benefit forms not being, designed in such a way that it caters for people with sickle cell disease. And this is very important to point out, because a lot of people are not able to work, for instance, and due to that, they need to access some benefits. But these benefit forms are so rigid in such a way that it's difficult for sickle cell patients to fit in some of the criteria that are in these forms. So we're raising awareness all the way through, and there are lots of local, if you just go to Google and type in sickle cell support groups in your local area, I'm sure there will be one that provides support. There is information on the NHS website as well that gives people information about sickle cell, where to go for support. So we can do better, but there is a lot that has been done to provide support for people that live with sickle cell.
And you have raised such an important point there about the benefits form, that it's not designed to help with, because we heard that so often with mental health or mental ill health, and it took people to keep shouting about it for the government to change that. So I would encourage people, write to your MP, tell them that they need to design these forms for people who suffer with these rare conditions, so that people can get the support that they need. Sorry, I'm getting my soapbox with things like that because I think it's so important. Now,
it is.
You're sitting with Owen from Pfizer, who we know Pfizer from COVID-19. We heard of Pfizer so much through that time. Now, during COVID-19, treatment and management were impacted for sickle cell disease. I mean, what impact did that have?
Well, that was a difficult time for everyone, I'm sure, and especially for those that live with sickle cell. I think it was one of the most challenging periods in my life, because when COVID hit, I had just had a baby, and I was actually looking forward to going back to work, but I couldn't because I had to shield. And I had stayed at home for quite some time, getting ready to go back to work. And then I got this letter saying I had to shield. I could not even go to my back garden. But most people with sickle cell can tell that the content of the letters we received were really drastic and scary. And we were not sure what we were dealing with at that time. But the mental health repercussions so many people are still dealing with today, because we were not only dealing with some of our sickle cell health challenges, a lot of people had mental breakdown, because first of all, it's very difficult to talk to people that don't have sickle cell, let alone talk to people at all. And that was a period in time where everyone was scared about everything. So not just people with sickle cell, I'm sure a lot of people that had other medical issues, were facing the most difficult times in their lives. And this was a very important time for me because I had a lot of people, as one of the advocates in our community, a lot of people reaching out to me not knowing what to do, being scared that they were going to die, and all the things we were seeing on the media. It was terrific. So I decided to come up with the idea of setting up a charity that can listen to people, even if it meant listening to one or two people, just talking together. And I think that is what kept us going, talking and making sure we kept in touch and supporting each other through that very difficult times. I had one of the worst crises I've ever had during COVID. I was admitted into hospital, but it was scary. I caught COVID. It was scary. I thought I was going to die, but I made it. And it was very important that I stayed in contact with some of the people that, I connect with, my community, sickle cell sufferers, just to keep us going. But we are still alive, thank God. And, it's sad that many people didn't make it, but we just have to keep going.
Yeah, I could sit and listen to you all day because your story is just inspirational.
Thank you, Barry.
And I'm afraid I've neglected you, Owen, which I'm very sorry about. But Pfizer, they are so good at what they do. They're so good at research. And we've heard what Mario was saying there about the problems that people with sickle cell suffer with. What can be done with the medical profession to be able to support and help people who suffer with this?
Well, I agree with you. I think Marie Claire's eloquence in describing her experience and the experience of so many people is what drives us every day in my unit, the rare disease unit, to continue to invest in the research for new treatments in the space. And there's a lot of time and investment that goes into that. We've been invested in the area of rare disease and sickle cell for 30 years. So I think there's a lot to come. What we're highlighting on World Sickle Day is that there's a huge unmet medical need, and we're hopeful for the future, but that we absolutely need to see the change that we're looking for by highlighting an awareness, because it's when we have an awareness that there's a shared support, not just for patients who suffer from this condition, but people who surround them and can help.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you to both of you. And Owen, where can people go for more information on sickle cell disease?
Well, what we would encourage people to do is just look on the NHS website, as Marie-Claire said. You can search up the reports, so the SHAPE survey and also the APPG report entitled "No One's Listening." But certainly, if you have a specific question about sickle cell, we'd encourage you to find your local sickle cell patient organisation, and they will be more than willing to help.
Yeah, and of course you can go in Plasma of Hope, Marie-Claire. Where can they find that information?
Yeah, they can go on to www.plasmaofhope.org and just Google. There's lots of information everywhere. Thank you. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you so much. Talk of the Towns is an in-house production made exclusively for Castledown FM, produced and presented by Barry Rhodes. If you miss any of today's show, you can catch up on www.castledownfm.com and click listen again.
Local radio for everyone. We are Castledown FM.